Amida Boots, Namo Amida Boots, Namo Amida Boots, Namo Amida Boots, Namo Amida Boots. Gasho. Namo Amida Boots. Namo Amida Boots. Namo Amida Boots. Namanda Boots, Namanda Boots, Namanda Boots, Namanda Boots, Namanda. Hello, and once again, thank you for joining us here at the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube channel. This is the fall service for October 10th, 2021. Thank you so much for joining us to hear the Buddha Dharma. Service order for today will be Sanbutsuge. You can find Sanbutsuge on page 53 in the Blue Denver Service Book. We'll then have a reading of the meditation. You can find the meditation on page 103 in the Blue Denver Service Book. We're then going to have a Dharma talk in English by Reverend Mascher-Mace. That'd be me. Thank you so much for once again joining us here on the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple's YouTube channel. If you don't have a copy of the Blue Denver Service Book, don't worry, because if you look in the description below, you'll find a link to the Google Drive where you can download your own PDF copy of the Blue Denver Service Book. And remember, you're good just as you are, so don't worry too much. And do all you can to protect all those who are weaker than yourselves. We cannot wait here at Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple till we can all see each other again in person. So please, be safe, and you're always in Buddha's light. Kogen gigi ijin mungoku nyoze henmyo muyo tosha nichingan mani shuko enyo kaishi nonpei Yunyaku jumoku nyorai yogen chose murin shogaku dayan koru jipo kaimon shojin sammai chie itoku muyo shusho keiyu jintai zennen shobuten hokai gujin jin no kugo gaitai mumyo yokunu Seison yomu ninno shishi jintoku muyo kukun kodai chie jinmyo komyo iso shindo daisen Ganga sabun zaisho ho kado shoji mifugedan fuse joi kainin shojin nyoze sammai chie ijo gosei tokubun fugyo shingan isai kuku
isa dayan keshi umun hyakusen okuman muyo daisho shunyo goja kuyo isai shito shobun funyo gudo kensho fukyak hinyo goja shobun sekai bufu kake mushu sendo komyo shisho henshi shokok nyoze shojin ijin nanryo ryonga sabun kokudo daiichi goshu kimyo dojo chozetsu kokunyo naion nimu toso gato aimin donan isai jipo daiso shinen shoujo ito ga kok keraku anon kobun shinmyo zega shinsho hongan no hi rikisho shoyok jippo seison chie muge joro shison chiga shingyo keiryo shinshi shoku dokuchu gagyo shojin ninju fuke Namandabu 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 Ganeshiku doku Byodo sehisai do hoten bodai shin ojo anrako Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda 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 Butsu.
Please join me in Gasho for a reading of The Meditation, found on page 103 in the Blue Denver Service Book. The Buddha surrounds all persons in all forms of life with infinite love and compassion. Particularly, the Buddha sends forth his loving thoughts to those in suffering and sorrow, to all those in doubt and ignorance, to all who are striving to attain truth, and to those whose feet are standing close to the great change we all call death. The Buddha sends forth oceans of wisdom, mercy, and love. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Hello, and welcome once again to the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple for this YouTube service. I'm going to give a short Dharma talk now. First, I'm going to read a quote from this book, Pure Land Haikus, The Art of the Priest Isa. And this book was put together by David Lanau, and it is haikus from the famous priest poet Isa. And we'll talk a little more about him in a second. But first, let's start with the haiku. I'm going to try to read it in Japanese first. If my pronunciation is a little off, I apologize. But if you're going to read a haiku, read it in the language it was written in. And then we'll read the English and talk a little bit about it. So, Nori no yo wa inu sai ju ya mairi kana. Nori no yo wa inu sai ju ya mairi kana. World of the Buddha's law. Even a dog on winter pilgrimage. World of the Buddha's law. Even a dog on winter pilgrimage. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. All right. I love Isa's poems. Isa, whose actual name is Kobayashi Nobuyuki, was alive and active mostly in the very early 1800s, so right near the end of the Edo period. And he has an interesting life because his birth mother dies and his father remarries, and he had a very tenuous relationship with his stepmother. And a lot of his poems talk about that tenuous relationship. But at the same time, he had a very, very, very deep appreciation and love for the Nembutsu teachings. And so many of his poems are 3-line Dharma talks. They are these amazing aspects of the teaching, seeing the Pure Land and the Nembutsu everywhere around him. No matter where he went, he could see Amida-sama. It's really amazing. And so this poem I picked today, World of the Buddha's Law, Even a Dog on Winter Pilgrimage. And I think this paints this really beautiful picture. We live in this samsaric world, and with troubles and issues and everything else. And oftentimes we feel very alone. So we have the days where we feel like no one else is experiencing what we're experiencing. Our causes and conditions are causing us much pain. Our attachments are causing us much pain. And we're not sure how to go on to the next day. And then we see something like this. World of the Buddha's Law, Even a Dog on Winter Pilgrimage. We're in this world, and everyone else is experiencing trouble and hardship. They also have pain and sadness. They also have causes and conditions, and they all have the same experiences that we do. While they're different because each of us are unique and the experiences which shape us is unique, we have to remember that everyone else around us is also our fellow traveler. It's easy to get disconnected these days and not see the truth in front of us. It's easy to get disconnected these days and not see the world. And I think that's been happening to me a little bit, where it becomes very isolating. And because of COVID and the 18, 19 months that we've been going on with it, the fact that the temple's not open still because we're trying to protect everyone, and the fact that the world feels like it's in flux all the time, the normal things of life seem very distant. And yet, right at the edge of our grasp, and our desire and our attachment to those normal things is causing us pain. And because of that, we're feeling very alone. And I think maybe to a certain extent more now than we did at the beginning of the pandemic or 6 months into COVID, we maybe feel more alone now because we don't feel, and I don't feel, like everyone's playing from the same playbook. So I have done some things to help me feel more connected to the world. And I want to share with you all some of the things that are making me feel more connected and making me realize that I am not alone. And there is a whole wide world out there. And everywhere you look, you can see the fellow travelers with you. You can look down and see the dog on pilgrimage with you. So there's this concept that came out in the early 2000s, and it is called slow TV. And there was slow TV prior to this. However, it became kind of a phenomenon with Norwegian broadcasters who started broadcasting for 9 hours straight or even 260 hours straight, things like train journeys and the entire passage of a ship and all these other things where people could go and they turn on their TV and they're just part of movement and they're part of everyday life. They see the train going and they can see themselves on that journey, because a lot of times we want to be on that journey, but there's so many things which are holding us back and holding us down, and we don't feel like we're actually part of the world sometimes. But you can turn on the TV and you're on a train, and you see that train moving through flowers, and you see that train moving through mountains and cities, and you see the life all around you. And it's sometimes easier to see when someone else is showing it to you than it is to look around yourself, because we are caught up in our own kleshas, our own causes and conditions. So this slow TV phenomenon has not gone away, and I have gotten addicted. There are YouTube channels that are dedicated to these entire slow TV concepts. And I want to share 3 of them with you that I have found super helpful and help me see the world in a unique way. So I've got a bit of Japanophile in me. I like seeing Japan because I think it's a much different country than where I live here in the United States. And I've spent a lot of my life traveling across the United States and Canada. And so I've seen a lot of it. And there's, of course, things I haven't seen, but it doesn't have some of the things that you find in other countries. And so I have found 3 YouTube channels that really show Japan in 3 different ways. And the first one's called Ramblack. And I'm going to go ahead and link all these in the description below. So if anyone wants to check these out, and we're going to get back around to the Buddhist lesson here, don't worry. Ramblack is a guy who literally takes a really cool camera, it's a Sony FX3, on a giant tripod or a giant gyroscope, and walks through back alleys and residential streets of Japanese towns. And he will and you can turn it on and watch for 2.5 hours as he just literally walks like 7 miles. And you get to be going on this walk with him. And it reminds you that people are doing things like walking, no matter where you go. This is a normal human activity. And you get to go out and see that the world exists outside of your bubble. Oh, wow. Isn't that beautiful? There's another one on, I have no idea how to pronounce it. It's AUNZ Railfan. AUNZ. I'm assuming it means Australia, New Zealand Railfan. But it's a person who likes to take their camera and stick it on the front end of Japanese trains and then just record it for the 2 or 3 hours that the train is going on. Through snow, through cities, through backcountries, through tunnels, the little trains out in the middle of nowhere. And you get to see the world move and the different villages and the different farms and the different everything else. And so as you're going, here are these small pockets of life that you get to experience for a moment. And you get to look at each one of these peoples and realize these are each a person with causes and conditions. These are people on their own journey. And you're on this train and you feel like you're part of it and you're not alone. It's very cool. The last one is a newer channel I just found, and that's called Solo Travel Japan. Solo Travel Japan. And this gentleman gets on Japanese ferries and takes them from one end of the islands to the other. And so he gets on overnight ferries and gives you a tour, and then you get to watch the ferry going. And it's just really interesting to see these three modes of transportation. It's not quite a John Candy movie, but we got walking, trains, and ferries, not quite planes, trains, and automobiles, walking, trains, and ferries. And you get to see in each method that the world exists around us. There is beauty everywhere you look. And so when you see the world in the lens of someone else and the capture of someone else, you're like, oh, wow, that's so different than what I see. Wow, that's so different than the experiences I'm having, except you have to probably understand for those people, they view the world in the same limited lens that we do. And when they're seeing it, they're like, oh, this is really beautiful. But wow, I wonder what it would be like if I was looking at this in France. I wonder what it'd be like if I was watching, fairy happy guy in Madagascar. And we all don't see the beautiful things around us. We don't see that everyone around us is our fellow traveler. And I think this is what Isa was trying to show us, is there's always a dog walking next to us. There's always someone else walking the direction we're going. Even in winter, the dog makes a pilgrimage. Even in winter, the dog makes a pilgrimage. And all together, when we say the Nembutsu, we're all walking the path together. So whether we're walking or on trains or on ferries, we're moving forward in this life. And we're seeing the Nembutsu, and we're seeing Buddha's light with us. And honestly, I just shared these three channels with you because they've been helping me. I like having a moment to exist in nature and to exist on a train and exist on the ocean. All these beautiful things that remind us the world is alive and vibrant around us. And we're disconnected from that because a lot of us are behind computers and on Zoom and in offices and in buildings. And we have to remember that when you get outside and you walk and you feel and you breathe and you smell, it's much easier to appreciate the world that's around us. And we look up and we find that we are always in the lights. No matter where we're at, we're not alone and we're walking the path together. So I hope those are slightly useful, and I hope that you enjoyed Isa's poem as much as I have, the One Cup of Tea Poets. So please join me in Gassho as we once again hear the words of Kobayashi Isa. Nori no yo wa inu sai juya maeri kana. Even the Buddha's law, or the world of Buddha's law, even a dog on winter pilgrimage. The world of Buddha's law, even a dog on winter pilgrimage. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Namanda.